It's Teresa from Dodge Nature Center. And on Nature to Go, we're always encouraging you to look at the nature that's around you wherever you happen to be. And that was the case for the program staff of the Nature Center last week when we were up in McGregor, Minnesota for a conference, the Minnesota Naturalist Association conference. And we all had the opportunity to see an animal that we just don't have at our site at all. We got to see porcupines. Porcupines are Minnesota's second largest rodent. Notice those orange teeth there? That's a sign that it's a rodent. But the thing that most of us think of when we think of porcupines are those quills. Those are modified hairs, and the bodies are covered with over 30,000 of those quills, that specialized hair. Here's a close-up of what one of those hairs looks like, and you see how there are those overlapping scales? Those are the barbs. They're kind of like the barbs on a fish hook. They will go into flesh fairly easily, but you can't pull them out easily at all. And this is one of the great defenses that porcupines then have. They can't shoot their quills, but when they're upset, they puff up their body, the quills stand out, and then they can get stuck in an animal much more easily. You might be wondering, do porcupines ever stab themselves? And sometimes that does happen. They'll be climbing up in a tree like the picture here, and they will be reaching for a branch and miss, and sometimes they fall out of the trees and they end up stabbing themselves. But they're not going to get an infection because they have a built-in antibiotic. It's kind of an amazing feature. So what are they going to eat? Well, they like to eat things like bark and buds. They'll eat leaves and nuts and berries when they're in season. What we were seeing them eating were the tips of white pine needles. So most of the time we saw them way high up in the trees, and that explains how they could accidentally fall out of the trees because they'd be at the very ends of those branches that were very thin and couldn't support their weight. Porcupines stay active all winter long, and they're mostly solitary creatures. So we only ever saw one at a time, but we saw them in a variety of locations, even right in and among the grounds where we were at Long Lake Conservation Center. So they were a really interesting animal, something we just don't see around the Nature Center. And so just like we're encouraging you, when you're in a new and different place, take advantage of what kind of interesting wildlife or plants might be around. It's always amazing what nature has to offer us. So thanks for joining me for this episode of Nature to Go, and go out and find your own amazing creature and tell us about it in the comments. Thanks, and we'll talk to you again next time.